In the city of Oakhaven, life was built not of stone, but of routines. People walked in straight lines, spoke in practical terms, and even frowned upon clouds for drifting without purpose. Here lived Julian, an architect of the mundane. He designed bridges that never swayed and towers that blocked the sun. But in the quiet of the night, a sense of unease grew within him, feeling that the world was capable of more than just functioning. During a particularly harsh drought of inspiration, when his own blueprints began to feel like cage bars, he stumbled upon a gate. It wasn't hidden, just unnoticed, nestled in an alley between the library of facts and the bank of certainty. It was an old archway, choked with ivy, smelling of rain and ozone. Julian, feeling a pull he couldn't explain, stepped through. The world didn't vanish. It dissolved. The gray concrete beneath his feet softened into rich, dark soil. The city's roar faded into the hum of bees and the rustle of leaves whispering secrets. He stood at the edge of an impossible landscape. Trees with bark like copper wire grew towards a violet sky, and flowers bloomed in stunning geometric fractals. "Welcome," a voice rumbled. Like rocks grinding together, Julian turned to see a figure that was part old man, part scarecrow made of parchment and ink, tending to a patch of glowing moss. "I am the keeper," the figure said, "and this is the Alchemist's garden. You are here because you are hungry. Julian." "Hungry?" Julian asked. "For the new. For the transformative," the keeper replied, gesturing to the strange world around them. "Here, ideas are not things you think. They are things you grow. But be warned, the alchemy of innovation is volatile. Not everything that blooms is beautiful, and not everything that is planted survives." The keeper led Julian to a vast, barren field. The earth here was loose, shifting like sand under his feet. "This," the keeper announced, "is the soil of curiosity. Nothing grows without it." He urged Julian to look closer. Kneeling, Julian saw that the soil was made of questions. Tiny, crystalline shards of why, what if, and how glittered in the dirt. "Most people in your world try to build on concrete," the keeper explained. "They want solid answers before they begin. But transformative ideas need loose soil. They need room to breathe, to move, to be wrong before they are right." He handed Julian a small, lumpy gray seed. "This is a seed of abstraction. A vague notion. A feeling. Plant it." Julian dug his hands into the soil of curiosity. It felt electric. He buried the seed, and the keeper handed him a heavy watering can. "Now, we wait. And while we wait, we water it with observation." For what felt like days, Julian watered the spot, but the can didn't pour water. It poured images, sounds, memories. He saw the intricate flight patterns of birds, the elegant curve of a seashell, the way light struck a skyscraper at dawn. He started to understand that innovation wasn't about creating something from nothing. It was about connecting things that already existed, but in new, unexpected ways. Slowly, a sprout emerged. It wasn't a plant, but a fragile, translucent spire, twisting upward, seeking the light. It was beautiful, but as the sprout grew, so did the shadows. One morning, Julian found his delicate idea choked by thick, black vines that smelled of rot. "The weeds of doubt," the keeper said, appearing behind him. "They are inevitable. It's too expensive. It's never been done. You aren't smart enough. They feed on the nutrients of your curiosity." Julian panicked, trying to rip the thorny vines away, but they tore at his hands. "How do I stop them?" he cried. "You cannot stop them," the keeper said calmly. "Doubt is part of the ecosystem. No doubt, no risk. No risk, no transformation. You must not remove them entirely, or the soil becomes sterile. You must prune them." He handed Julian a pair of silver shears. "Acknowledge them, but do not let them block the sun." The work was grueling. The vines whispered his past failures as he cut, but Julian focused on the spire, which was now pulsing with a soft, golden light. With every vine he pruned, the spire grew stronger, its base thickening, becoming less abstract and more tangible. He learned that the alchemy of ideas required balance, too much confidence, and the idea grew wild and unsound, too much doubt, and it was strangled before it could live. Eventually, the sprout became a majestic tree. Its leaves were like sheets of glass, reflecting the violet sky. Julian felt a swell of pride. "It is finished," he declared. "No," the keeper corrected, his voice grave. "It is merely conceived. Now, it must survive the weather." The sky darkened instantly. Thunder rolled like crashing machinery. The storm of execution, the keeper shouted over the rising wind. "Ideas are perfect in the mind, Julian, flawless in the imagination. But to make them real, they must endure the friction of reality." The rain began not water, but heavy drops of molten lead. Each drop was the weight of logistics, of physics, of budget cuts and time constraints. The wind howled with the voices of critics. Julian watched in horror as his beautiful glass tree shattered. Branches snapped. Leaves were pulverized. The trunk groaned under the assault. "Do something!" Julian screamed. "I can do nothing," the keeper roared back. "This is the alchemy. The heat of the storm burns away the impurities. Only the essential structure will survive." Julian couldn't look away. He watched his darling creation get stripped bare. The ornamental leaves were gone. The delicate, twisting branches were sheared off. When the storm finally passed, all that remained was the core of the central trunk, battered and scarred, but standing. The tree was no longer pretty. It was rugged. It was dense. It had lost its glamour, but it had gained gravity. "What is left," the keeper said softly, "is the truth. The part of the idea that actually works." At the base of the surviving tree, on its lowest branch, hung a single fruit. It glowed with an intense, blinding white light. "Is this it?" Julian asked, his voice trembling. "This is the fruit of impact," the keeper said. "It is the result of curiosity, pruning, and the storm. It is a transformative idea. But, Julian, a fruit cannot stay on the tree. I have to take it back," Julian realized. "Yes. And that is the hardest part. In Teesgarden, the fruit makes sense. In Oakhaven, in the land of straight lines and grey concrete, it will look alien. People will fear it. They will say it doesn't fit." Julian stood up and plucked the fruit. It was warm, vibrating with potential energy. "So why do it?" he asked. "Why go through the doubt, the storm, the pain?" The keeper smiled, his parchment face crinkling. "Because, architect, the garden does not exist to keep the fruit. It exists to seed the world. One seed can change a forest. One idea can rewrite a civilization." Julian stepped back through the ivy-choked archway. The smells of the garden faded, replaced by the exhaust and dust of Oakhaven. He stood in the alley, the heavy, glowing fruit in his hands. He walked to his office and swept the standard, sun-blocking blueprints off his desk. He placed the fruit in the center of the table. The light from the fruit began to bleed into the paper on his desk. Julian picked up his pen. This time, he didn't draw straight lines. He drew curves that mimicked the wind. He designed structures that seemed to breathe. The alchemy had not just changed the idea, it had changed the alchemist. Julian began to work. The garden was gone, but he now carried its seeds, and the soil of the entire world was waiting. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more tales of transformation and creativity.